Hi everyone, I'm reading Love the Way You Dance by Allison M. Boot, presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Chapter 1. Once upon a time, in a faraway land called Starry Crest, there lived a princess named Kara. Like other princesses before her, she was beloved and regarded as special in her realm. As far as the princess was concerned, she was special not because of her royal status per se, but because of how it was bestowed upon her. Unlike other princesses, her royal status was not a birthright, but rather a perk of the king and queen adopting her 2 years earlier. Despite having to keep up with homework, chores, and various royal duties, life had been pretty perfect since that day. By far, dance was the aspect the princess loved most about her new life. She and her adoptive mother, Misty, were both in wheelchairs because of disabilities that left them unable to walk. But Derek Dennison, the kingdom's dignified and fair ruler, as well as its most loving husband and devoted father, quickly taught the two most important women in the world to him that their disabilities didn't have to prevent them from loving dance. The tiny family had bonded over dance so much that the king had implemented an adaptive ballet class, the Starry Crest Dancing Starlets, shortly after Kara's adoption. Sitting in the class one afternoon with 13 other kids, she fidgeted apprehensively in her chair as he assigned parts for an upcoming performance of the Nutcracker. Uh-oh, I look even more nervous than I feel, she realized as she noted her wide-eyed, frazzled reflection in the focal point mirror-covered wall. This is so weird. I'm used to feeling so comfortable and confident here in the studio. Looking at the jewel-covered phonograph at the front of the room, she closed her eyes and tried to imagine the soft, melodic stylings of the fairy lullaby from a Midsummer Night's Dream filling the room. After a long moment, she took a deep breath, opened her eyes, and flashed a smile at Derek. Her smile fell instantly as Sally Levinson will dance as Clara left his mouth. I can't believe he chose Sally. What was he thinking? She thought to herself. She understood that he didn't want to give her preferential treatment for being his daughter and the royal princess, but she hoped that her talent and the fact that her name rhymed with that of the star of the show would earn her the part. Biting the inside of her cheek with gumption, she managed to not make a peep despite her overwhelming desire to protest. And last, but certainly not least, the lovely Kara Dennison will be our sugar plum fairy, Derek announced, pride coloring his voice. A squeal left the young girl's lips as her confidence in her adoptive father was instantly restored. Derek let out a roar of laughter. I hope you're all as happy with your part as Kara is with hers. That's all for today, kiddos. Go home and study up because come December 3rd, we are going to celebrate Starry Crest's birthday by putting on the best performance of the Nutcracker this kingdom has ever seen. Derek and Kara were left alone in the dance studio after a chorus of cheers followed his announcement. I'm so glad you're happy with your part, sweetheart. You seemed nervous for a minute there. The young girl giggled, her adorable dimples popping out against her skin. I tried to hide it, but I was hoping to be the star of the show, she admitted, her voice suddenly soft and quiet. Derek smiled, the love he felt for Kara shining in his eyes. Sweetheart, I'm going to tell you a little secret. But first you must promise to keep it just between us, okay? Kara nodded eagerly, her dimples still exposed. I will, I promise. Clara may spend the most time on stage in the Nutcracker and be the character who most people consider the star of the show, but truth be told, the Sugar Plum Fairy character dances one of the most beautiful, intricate, and challenging ballet routines of all time. I gave you the role of Sugar Plum Fairy because, in my humble opinion, the most difficult dance in the piece deserves to be performed by my best and most dedicated dancer. There is no doubt in my mind that's you. Pausing briefly, he flashed a smile. Besides, as the most beautiful person in this kingdom, you are the only one who can do that part justice. The little girl smiled mischievously, her eyebrows furrowed. What about Misty? Don't you think she's the most beautiful person in the kingdom? Kneeling to look her straight in the eye, his expression thoughtful, Derek contemplated for a moment, then answered, I could no sooner choose between the two of you than I could destroy this kingdom. You two are definitely tied, but I'll tell you another little secret. Smiling wider, Derek dropped his voice to a whisper. You aren't the best dancer in the Starry-Crossed Dancing Starlets just because your appearance is gorgeous. You're the best because when you dance, you let people see your beautiful heart. Throwing her arms around Derek's neck, Kara squeezed tightly. You are the best. Derek shook his head, still smiling. No, sweetheart, you are. I only hope that someday you can learn to love the way you dance. Ignoring the tiny dancer's question, Derek returned her hug and flashed a smile. What do you say we go and start on dinner before Dex and Cliff riot and break into the fridge? With that, Kara let out a chorus of giggles, and the two of them walked happily back to the castle proper. Guess what? Guess what? Guess what? Kara charged enthusiastically at her adoptive mother as she burst through the door of the castle dining room that evening. Misty beamed at her daughter's excitement, her emerald eyes sparkling with love for the little girl. What, sweetie? With a smile that lit up her whole face, Kara sat up straighter in her wheelchair and announced, I'm going to dance as the Sugar Plum Fairy in the Starry-Crossed Dancing Starlets production of the Nutcracker. Misty instantly hugged the little girl, squeezing gently as an enthusiastic squeal escaped her lips. I'm so happy for you, sweetheart. She locked her eyes with her husband and they shared a grin as she sent Kara off to set the table for dinner. You're going to be great. You really are, Misty told her as she put plates and forks at 3 places. You're such a radiant dancer, and you can bet I'm getting a seat in the front row. Once everything was ready, the tiny family sat down to a delicious dinner of fried chicken, mashed potatoes, and buttermilk biscuits. I'm so glad Derek asked me to be the Sugar Plum Fairy, Kara mused conversationally between bites of food. Hearing these words, Misty couldn't help the sigh she exhaled, looking at the young girl before her. Kara, honey, it's been 2 years since your adoption. You're not going anywhere, and neither are we, so I think it's okay if you call us Mom and Dad. Kara focused her gaze on her shoes. I love you guys so much, she whispered instead of responding to her adoptive mother's thought. I really do want to call them Mom and Dad, but I can't bring myself to do it, she sighed. An awkward silence settled like a cloud over the trio. Clearing his throat, after a few minutes, Derek turned to Misty valiantly, trying to diffuse the tension with his, So, how was your day? Well, Kara's not the only one who received big news today, Misty admitted hesitantly. Enlighten us, the king urged, taking a bite of chicken. After I finished with today's audiences, I went to the doctor, she elaborated, apprehension darkening her features. Misty, why didn't you tell me you were feeling poorly? Derek could not mask his alarm. He took her hand and squeezed it. Yeah, why didn't you tell anyone? Are you okay? Kara asked, echoing Derek's concerns. Returning Derek's solid grip, Misty looked at Kara and took a deep breath. Well, I've been feeling poorly in the early hours of the morning for a while now, but I didn't want anyone to know until I was sure. Sweetie, what did the doctor tell you? Distress poured from Derek's question. Please tell us, he pleaded before taking another bite of his fried chicken. I'm pregnant, the queen blurted, smiling nervously as the words tumbled into the space between them. Eyes watering, Derek's face turned purple in seconds as he tried to cough up a piece of chicken that had lodged into the back of his throat upon hearing about his wife's delicate condition. Oh God, he's choking, help, help! Misty shouted, anxiety overtaking her muscles and creating a spasm that ran up and down her legs. The jerky movement of her limbs made her seatbelt pop off, at which point she was practically standing upright in her wheelchair. I'm on it, Kara declared, signaling for Dex, the family service dog, to follow her before she raced out of the room in search of help. Upon returning, the young girl watched, her eyes glued in amazement to Derek, as he leaned himself against the dining room table and after 3 abdominal thrusts effectively displaced the fried fowl. Mary, a personal assistant and beloved member of the castle staff, looked at the little girl. Oh my heavens, why didn't you tell me what was going on? The caregiver asked as she rushed over to the leader of the realm. Are you all right, Your Majesty? What on earth happened? Water, the king croaked out, his voice quiet and weak. I need water. Take this, Kara said, quickly satisfying his request by offering him her glass. After taking a large gulp of water, the king took a deep breath and smiled. I'm okay, just startled by Misty's announcement. Flashing him a nervous half-smile, Mary nodded. Oh, I see. I'm glad you're okay. Let me know if you need anything else, Your Majesty, and please take smaller bites. The family's laughter in answer to this message followed her out of the room. As everyone's laughter quieted, Derek reached over, buckled his wife's seatbelt, and reclaimed his seat at the dinner table, having the clang of forks against plates be the lone sound in the room. for the next few minutes brought back the memory of another quiet dinner for Kara held some time ago. Misty and Derek had tried to stage a meeting between their feuding parents over food shortly after she'd come to live in the castle. The past fading and her plate empty, Kara fixed her gaze on Misty. "So, you have a bun in the oven?" The Queen smiled uncertainly. "Yes," she answered, her voice small and quiet. "Where did you hear that expression?" Kara giggled, exposing her dimples. "A few years ago. I got mad when I heard that Alicia, the oldest girl in the group home, was suddenly allowed to get an apartment and live on her own. When I asked Betsy why, she said it was because Alicia had a bun in the oven. Then a few days later, a lady named Dula came by to tell everyone where babies come from. I put things together." Giggling, Misty looked at her daughter. "Kara, sweetheart, I think you mean a doula. That's what people who deliver babies are sometimes called." "I was actually thinking of using a doula instead of a doctor," she said casually. Suddenly wide-eyed, a shocked Derek joined the conversation again. "What? Okay, we'll talk about that decision later," he directed at his wife. Then he addressed his daughter. He was anxious and completely incapable of hiding his inexperience talking about the subject he was broaching. "What did the doula tell you about the baby thing, sweetheart?" Kara's cheeks, usually rosily pink, instantly became a deep red. Shouldn't you know that already?" she questioned, her laughter more nervous than happy. Misty chuckled at the joke, her pleasure reaching all the way to her eyes. "It's okay, Kara. We just want to be prepared to fill in whatever gaps may come up in the future." Kara beckoned the winged and fur-covered members of the family who had already been sitting nearby closer. She needed a morale boost before she imparted her information. "Oh, well, she told us that sometimes, if two people love each other enough, God allows their souls to join and create another one. According to the doula, this new soul is protected for 9 months in the mother's stomach before it comes into the world." As the Queen listened to and fully absorbed Kara's words, her eyes brimmed with moisture. "That's the sweetest thing I've ever heard," Misty sobbed, tears coursing down her cheeks. Overcome with emotion, she pulled Kara toward her across the table and hugged her. The young girl's body went into the embrace, but her limbs stayed stiff, her blonde hair swinging as she shook her head confused and looked to Derek. "What's happening?" The words collapsed into a faint croak as Misty tightened her hold. "Sweetie, I believe we're witnessing the first of many hormone-induced mood swings," Derek chuckled. Misty nodded in agreement. "I know it's crazy to cry, but I can't help it." She gently freed Kara from her grasp, wiping her eyes and smiling. "I couldn't be happier, but I'm so scared," she added wonderingly, fresh tears welling in her eyes. Kara locked eyes with Derek, breathing sagely. Mood swing. With a small, thoughtful grin, the king told his wife, "We'll get through this, really, we will, I promise. I know it's unknown territory, but try not to worry too much. It won't be good for you or the baby." Continuing to cry, Misty shook her head. "It's not about the pregnancy," she admitted slowly. "I mean, I am scared about that, but," her voice lost the little strength it had. Her family had to strain to hear. "I'm more frightened about Trovella's family." "What are you talking about?" Derek asked, calm but confused. Drawing a deep, steadying breath, the beautiful monarch explained. "The Royal Guard has records that identify every member of Trovella's family, going back 5 generations. Yesterday, the captain reported that some of his soldiers spotted her cousin, Victrola's, footprints on the outskirt of the kingdom. I have a sinking suspicion that she's here to avenge Trovella's death." Hearing that evil name made Kara's heart race. Trovella, a malevolent troll, had tried to destroy the 2 beloved kingdoms that had joined to form Starcrest in the not-too-distant past. Misty had ultimately defeated her, but the fight had not been an easy one. Of course she's worried about Trovella's family coming after us. She wants to see that we and the kingdom are protected. It makes so much sense. The princess realized that Derek was having similar thoughts when she saw him pull Misty into his arms, comfortingly. "You could have told me what was troubling you," the king informed his wife, his voice full of the love he had for her. "You don't have to concern yourself with anyone from Trovella's family." Standing before she could respond, he continued, "That's my job. Your only job is to make sure you and the baby stay healthy." The queen denied his request swiftly. "No," her head moved from side to side in a gesture of denial. "I came after her. Now, if she comes after me or this family, it's only right that I be the one who protects us. That's my job, she insisted forcefully. That's why I visited Cinder's Edge after I defeated Travella, to ask the trolls there the best way to track the most dangerous of their kind. Thanks.